Brianna Soldano. I am an art major and double minor in dance and art history.
I'm Shauna Sorensen, and I'm an art major and an art history minor.
We went to a lot of museums and cathedrals and saw a lot of artwork, so most of our slides are jam-packed with a lot of visuals, because that's what we were looking at most of the time.
On this slide, we have sort of a conglomeration of a bunch of cathedrals we went to. We have Chartres Cathedral, and Notre Dame, Sainte-Chapelle, and then the big white one is Sacré-Cœur in Montmartre. And in the cathedrals, we also did a lot of drawings, and those are two of our sketches from Sainte-Chapelle. It was nice because, I'm sorry, we've taken a lot of art history courses, and so we've learned about all the cathedrals, and it was great to actually see them because you can't really understand what the pilgrimages in
Just like walking through the whole medieval community is, you hear how grandiose they are and you see all these pictures, but to literally walk in and see the high domes and the flying buttresses off the sides of the cathedrals, you really just get a chance to see what they saw, and you can understand a little bit more of how they felt when they were there.
And so we also went, this was at the Louvre, and we went there a good 3 times at least. And so we did a lot of sketching there, and it's also a gigantic museum. In those 3 times, we didn't see the whole thing.
Not even close.
But it was also nice to see a lot of the artwork that we've studied in classes. On the far left was the Stele of the Vultures, which we were excited to see.
As you can tell.
Yeah. And then we saw the Mona Lisa, which was just a mob scene. We also saw one of the Ein Gazelle figures that we also learned about in another class. And then at the bottom is Brianna's lovely panoramic photograph of the Rubens room, where Jenny pretty much lived and did all her sketching there.
Yeah, so this is the Assyrian room on the bottom, and there's the big lamassus, which you could see in the pictures, and we sat there with actually a group of students from a class. They all spoke French, and I don't really, so trying to communicate with them was pretty fun. But we were sketching and they were sketching, and it was really a pretty fun experience just to see they're learning just as much as we're learning at the same time. But we did some blind drawings and value sketches and line drawings, which I think is in the next slide. There we go. So
That mess at the top was a blind drawing, which you just look at it and you never look down at your pad and keep it in one line. So we don't draw like that. That's just a blind drawing.
So you see some more value drawings, and there's some pen drawings with the colored pencil, which that one was from the Moyen Age Museum. And we also went to the Musée de l'Orangerie, which is along the Tuileries Gardens, right across from the Louvre. They have a lot of the Impressionist and Post-Impressionist work there, Monet and the water lilies, which are pretty famous, and Cézanne and Picasso and Renoir, and so many different artists that we've heard so much about, and now actually get to see some of the works, other than the ones in the Met. And you think the Met is a huge place until you go to the Louvre, and then you realize you're wrong. So these are some fun pictures that me and Shauna like to do. Do the same pose as the sculptures. So this is just some of the ones that we did. The bottom left is, I don't know, we asked this man who didn't speak English to take a photo for us because we were trying to do that take it yourself thing, and it wasn't working, and then so he kind of gestured, do you want me to take a picture for you? And then we were like, yeah, and then we start making all these faces, and he was just like, do I take the picture now, or do you want me to take you looking like this? So that was interesting. But we did this a lot. That's just some of the few.
This was at the Musée d'Orsay. It was actually an optional museum visit for our spare time. So we went to museums all day, and then in our spare time we went to museums. So that was a good night. It's a really nice museum. It was
Train station that they converted in 1977 to a museum. This is also, there was a lot of impressionist and post-impressionist painters there, also with symbolists and some realists. So we saw Van Gogh and Millet and Gauguin and just so many names I can throw out at you that we actually got to stand there and see. And it was crazy to see some of the large works, which you can see in the lower right picture. Just the size of some of these paintings is pretty incredible.
It was nice also at this museum because I had a paper to write for another class on a turn-of-the-century artist, and so my professor said I could write it there, ILC, and so I wrote my paper on Toulouse-Lautrec on a painting I saw in Orsay, so I got some other work done while I was in Paris. This was the Rodin Museum. It was a smaller museum, and it was just all Rodin's works, and it was nice that it was so small and we spent so much time there, so we got to do some longer sketches and take some fun photos.
Yeah, he does a lot of sculptures, so we each got assigned pieces of the body to find, so we could take them back and cut them up and make a collage of all these body parts that we got to draw. There also was another class trip at this museum as well with very young children all sitting there sketching, and we're sitting there sketching and full of sketching. This is the Père Lachaise Cemetery, which is one of the most famous cemeteries in the world. And there's over, oh my gosh, so many, 300,000 bodies buried there, and more that were cremated. And we had fun with this because we got to go on little scavenger hunts to try to find all the famous names.
We kept a score of who could find what, and we got a nice tour of all the famous people who were buried there. And those of us who knew a bit about certain people would give a sort of eulogy, I guess, and tell the class about them. I was able to do Proust, and Julia down at the bottom did Oscar Wilde for us. And then Jenny with her family Toth also gave us a tour of some of the funnier deaths that were there. Two balloonists who suffocated because they went too high, so they were buried, and there was a sculpture of them with their balloon draped over them on their grave. It's pretty funny.
And then a man who got eaten by his
Pet
lion, and him riding his lion is on the top of the thing, so that was pretty interesting.
And we ate.
It couldn't be Paris without the food. So we got to try a lot of different foods. You see some escargot and many, many different kinds of cheeses. And we had tasks every day. So one of my tasks was to go buy cheese and bring it back and share it with everyone. And another task was to go to a famous department store. So they brought back a chocolate cake for us all to eat. You see some ice cream and just pastries and tarts and just delicious things. One of my favorite nights was we went out to a restaurant and had the most delicious meal ever. And you see up on the top, those are potatoes with a lot of cheese. They just whipped right next to you at the table. And then next to that, we had a big bowl of chocolate mousse, which I reluctantly shared with everyone. Yeah. But yeah, it was definitely much different than the food here, and I'm very glad we all got a chance to go and experience that. Yes, and then
That was Paris in a
we
nutshell.
came home. But we learned a lot, so that's it.
save that to the desktop.